Are you ready to unmute your power? Are you sick and tired of being told to shut up? Welcome to Something to Say with me, Jamie Shae, because silence is no longer an option. This is not just a podcast, it's a revolution. This is for the women who are done tolerating mediocrity, done biting their tongues, and done playing small. With bold truths and unfiltered insights, I'll help you rip off that proverbial muzzle, put your stake in the ground, and take back the power you were told to suppress. You were never meant to be silent. The world is waiting to hear your voice. It's time to speak up, and speaking up starts now. Welcome back to Something to Say. I'm your host, Jamie Shae. Today we're talking about confidence and where it really comes from. Confidence is not about faking it or charisma or chasing approval. It's about roots. Roots in self-trust, in knowing who you are, and in standing firm when life's storms hit hard. So let's break the myth wide open. Confidence is not a personality trait. It's not something you're born with. It's a root system that you develop, that you cultivate. And we're going to go deep into how women can grow unshakable confidence, stop toppling over when the winds blow, and finally feel free to own their power. And listen, if we're going to talk about confidence, I had to bring in the big guns. Dr. Pat is not just a host. She is a force of nature. When she couldn't find a platform bold enough for her truth, she built her own. Transformation Talk Radio and Transformation TV Network. She has been breaking ceilings, kicking down doors, and handing the mic to people who refuse to stay silent like myself. Dr. Pat doesn't just talk confidence, she is confidence. She's living proof that when you root yourself in your power, you are unstoppable. Dr. Pat, thank you for being here yet again.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just get my microphone a little bit closer. One of the things I love, there's a quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg that, well, almost everything Ruth Bader Ginsburg said ever, but there's one that stuck with me. And she said, fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. And see, that's what we're talking about here today. You're out there, and your show by its very name, but your passion and purpose is to have people have that invitation. It's come on, ladies, let's have that invitation and let's come forward. It's interesting. I got in trouble not too long ago because I used the term ladies, and I thought, okay. I just, so I went around, I asked like different women from different generations. I said, are you offended when I use that term? The response I got is perfect for today's show.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people said to me, the fact that you use that term, Pat, you must be extraordinarily confident. And it is one of the least likely terms I'd use to describe myself. I'm a contradiction.
I love the word ladies. Actually, I don't know. I'm surprised to hear women are offended by that term. But
I like to call it confused. I think they were confused by me using it.
Okay.
Right. As opposed to Michelle Obama or somebody. But that's what today is about, really, to talk about these things.
Yeah.
To talk about how we can show up more powerfully.
Yeah. And we've been told confidence is about being outgoing or fearless, and that you're born that way or you're not. But that's not the truth, is it? Because honestly, for me, I was not born confident. I was probably the shyest, quietest child to ever exist. And I was that way into my early 20s. I was afraid to speak. I was afraid to open my mouth. So how do you see the difference between extroversion and true confidence?
Well, first of all, I stuttered most of my teenage years, but I can't remember when it started, to be honest with you. I was always different in the way I spoke, and that's a whole nother show, but that was always a challenge for me. You see, I just stuttered right there. Did you pick that right there up?
Oh,
Yeah, it comes back every once in a while. But But it didn't affect my confidence because I was surrounded by people, especially my uncles, who knew my mom was sick. She was out of it. She'd been hooked on prescription drugs for a really long time. She had me when she was hooked on drugs. And so I was surrounded by uncles that gave me boxing gloves at age 5 and told me to pound on this blow up doll. But that didn't save me from the workplace. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't save me once I got out of the realm of family and friends and out into the world. It didn't save me from what I was going to face. But I'll tell you what did save me. I grew up with generations of women like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like Gloria Steinem, like Bella Abzug, like Jane Fonda. I grew up with those voices that they were prominent.
Yeah.
They were prominent in the world and what they spoke. And I miss it. I miss them. Um,
Yeah.
and yet I know I have to do more. I'm
Yeah.
doing it through the network, but that's not the end for you and me, Jamie.
Oh, no,
No.
no. I'm trying to do more as well to get more involved in my community to just, yeah, to get the message out there. And I had a big discussion with a 19-year-old boy, man, last week, who is not happy with women like me telling women they have choices, that they shouldn't want to do what women have been told we should want, which is get married and have babies, and that's all we're good for. And I had to tell him that that's not what I'm doing. What I'm
Mhm.
doing is just telling women to be curious about what they want and to not assume the conditioning. But it's really interesting that this work of just simply being confident women and being okay being in our power and making choices that align with who we are creates such strong emotions in
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And I know Jane Fonda did that. All those women that you spoke of, they created strong emotions in people, one way or the other.
Yeah. And we have women today doing that.
Hmm.
We have women speaking out today, albeit they've gotten a bit quiet, I will say, not quite understanding that.
Yeah.
But they did get quiet. But here's what we're talking about today. Let's talk about extroversion and true confidence. I'm an introvert. I am such an introvert. It doesn't matter. Y'all look at my Myers-Briggs and you'll see it. But it doesn't mean that we can't, whether we're extrovert or introvert, can't be out in the world. But it's how we're out there. It's like Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, if you do it in a way, if you do it in a way to show that you care, people will follow you. But in the world we live in today, it is not quite enough. There needs to be more, hence the network. The
Mm-hmm.
choice to really come out with the network and the transformation network services now that more people will hear about now that our trademark has been approved. This is the world we're in. So
Yeah.
having a network and having a show is one thing, but what if we were to have a global summit on
Mm.
positivity? What if we could pull people, men and women? But here's what I want to say. I'm very fortunate. Some people see my childhood as less fortunate. I grew up in a multiracial community. And I joked about this to someone the other day when I was speaking with them about it, because I didn't really understand that I was white until an older age because it just didn't, we didn't look at that. But here's what I want to say about it. And I don't want to generalize y'all. This is my experience. My experience of in the diverse communities, women rule. Mamas, I'm not kidding.
Yep.
You look at, so I was shocked by that comment by that young boy. And I thought to myself, and I'm not going to say it on air because I don't want to get 100,000 emails on this, but I thought to myself, that's not my experience of growing up. Every person I grew up with as a young person, those boys of color They
Mm-hmm.
revered their mamas, and their mamas worked to the bone. They
Mm-hmm.
worked to, they just, their nails fell off. I mean, the powerful women. So let's talk about that and the confusion about it, because we need to change the narrative. And that's what you're doing in the show.
Yeah, that's what I am trying to do. And, I use this tree metaphor a lot when I coach or when I speak about how our our branches are it's the external image or the things to which we attach our identity, but the roots are who we really are, that unchanging part of self. So what do you think keeps so many women focused on polishing their branches instead of deepening their roots?
Yeah, I think that first of all, I will say that I'm very fortunate that I didn't grow up in social media, because in the social media world, because I do work with young people, especially in the addiction field, and social media is the cause of. I don't even want to go into it in this show. There's not enough time, but it gives people a false sense of who they should be. So confused. We're so confused.
Mm,
What am I? And it's not just women. I
yeah.
was talking to a young man not too long ago, and he was talking about the clothes he's wearing, and I looked at him, and I am going to say this on air. I looked at him and I said, "So do you swear by your underwear brand? I mean, do you so relate to every?" Because we are driven by so much now. We're driven by. Linda looked at me the other day. She said, "What are you doing?" Because I was watching the football game, the excuse me, the women's championship. Hey, Seattle, nice job. But I was watching it, and I'm like, what, commercial, 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 and then I watched this other show, and I said, Linda, I figured out the formula. Here it is. When you watch a full hour show, the commercials at the beginning are about 190 seconds. Then later on, a little bit later, they're about maybe 3 minutes. Then as the show, I said, do you know that the last set of commercials in the show are 9 minutes?
Wow.
Yes. How do you not identify? See, it's not the question of this, but it's the question of how can we instill authentic confidence? How do
Yes,
we do it? And this is really the question mark. But for women, it's very confusing.
it is. It is very confusing. My very first spiritual teacher was Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, I
I
love
call
Wayne.
on him and try to channel him even today
I
because he's
do.
so brilliant. And one of the things he said that stuck with me was being independent of the good opinion of others. He said, when you reach that place, you have freedom, you have inner peace, you become self actualized.
Mhm.
And ever since I've heard those words spoken from him, I set out to accomplish that. And it seemed like such a huge task. So, like, how do you be so good with
Yeah.
you that you don't care what other people think, that
Well,
you need their approval and their permission? And
let's
that's,
talk about it.
yeah, let's talk about it.
We need to channel some of this.
Yes.
Let me go back to Ruth for a minute, because I'm on a little kick with Ruth right now. She was asking about the Supreme Court, and they asked her about how many women should be on the Supreme Court. And she said basically all of them. Oprah is the number. I think Oprah should get. I'm going to send Oprah a crust busting award. Now, I don't know if it'll get to her, but my crust busting awards have gotten to a lot of people. But I'm going to send her this award because she went out and said, no mas. I am not going to be driven by you guys.
Yeah.
What are we just watching? We're watching this late night show be canceled. What is it, Stephen Colbert? We're watching people be canceled. But
Yeah.
Oprah did something bold. She did what I'm doing. She
Yes.
started her own network. So, how do we help people with that? Because part of the confidence conundrum is being underestimated.
I was just going to say, what do all those women have in common? They were underestimated. And I'm sure you have been as well. Tell me about a time. You were
I
underestimated.
got to tell you, I've been underestimated my entire life, and even today I'm underestimated. Um, they're just, it's, what do I mean by underestimated? Let's talk about what the meaning of that is. It's when somebody sizes you up, and I don't care what you're doing.
Yep.
Like I mentioned, the Seattle Storm. Indiana Fever. These two teams totally underestimated. Never expected to win game two. Look at them. They're like this. They're not. Nobody on the panel last night, except one woman who was forced to pick the Seattle Storm. But you see, this idea of being underestimated is across the board. It's across the board. But for
Okay.
women, it's a silent killer. Let's
Hmm.
talk about how it shows up for a minute, though, Jamie.
Yeah.
I could sit and give you example after example after example, but I don't want to. I want to talk about what it looks like. So, for all of you out there, women, and if you're listening and you're a man, this is for you. Have you ever walked into a job and thought, I can do that project, and approached your boss and gave them an entire descriptive of why you can do that project? And one, they either refused to give it to you, or if they gave it to you, they literally pointed out that you're not going to be able to do it. How many of you grew up playing sports and nobody thought you had the potential? How about being a musician? I was a viola player and
Mm.
I'm neurodiverse. So you can't see what I'm doing with my hands right now, but if you saw me, this is what I'm doing. Um, but I grew up like that. And I had a music teacher that said to me, you can play the viola. This man instilled a level of confidence and trust that he had in me,
Mm.
faith in me. See, that's what we need to do better as women. We need to have faith in other women and then help them achieve their goals and not point out to them what the bleep they ain't doing right. You ain't got your makeup on. You didn't put lipstick on. We need to be supportive of this as we
Yes.
move forward. Now, do I have a magic answer? Well, I have a couple ravens that visit me. I'll ask them later. But you're doing it, Jamie, in this show.
Thank you.
So let me tell you when I wasn't underestimated. Mary Louise Smith. Mary Louise Smith. On a job that I had to prove myself. That was a failing graphics organization that I didn't understand that by having that 1 year job that I would need it to build this network.
Mm.
Get it? But Mary Louise Smith pulled me aside and said, you and I are going to rewrite the way this organization's run, and we're going to keep it a secret. Now, I'm really good at secrets. So for a year, we redefined, restructured, and turned a $1.2 million graphics, internal AT&T graphics department from failing to a $3 million graphics presentation automation company.
Wow. That's
That's the
amazing.
short version.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
she taught me lessons. What's the lesson? Walked into the room. I don't use this on my people because I think it would shock everybody if I did this. But I couldn't speak when I was in her presence without answering the question, what part of the problem are you, Pat?
Mm. Wow.
It didn't matter what it was. It could be what's his face smoking cocaine and me thinking it was a donut. But isn't this where we're going? So let's talk about confidence in a way that we can help some people today,
Yeah.
because you have to protect your peace.
Yes.
Rule number one. Go ahead, tell us about this.
Well, I have a course actually that I'm building called Rooted because I believe that that's one thing women need really to develop the most is their sense of self, that unshakable confidence, that knowing who they really are. These, so I believe the roots truly are built through three things: self-trust, which is making and keeping your promises to yourself, and which is so hard sometimes, but keeping promises to yourself. And then connection to source, which I believe you and I have that in common. That is a bigger why, Why are we out here sometimes making a fool of ourselves, embarrassed, whatever it is, like just putting ourselves out there? It's that bigger why. It's our mission. And then the courage to act when it's really uncomfortable. And so that's what I think, that's what I want to help women learn. And you are a living example of that. I'm trying to be a living example of that. And keeping promises to ourselves can be, as you know, when we say things like, I'm going to start diet Monday, and then we don't, or, you know, we're going to go to the gym, or whatever it is. I think starting small with making and keeping promises to ourselves and connecting to source, because when the world gets heavy, that's the true root, is source. That's what is
Yeah.
unwavering.
Yeah.
And that, the courage to act, not everyone can find that. But when you do, when you take that step and take action, and you found that courage within yourself, that you'll never regret that. And you build upon that. That's what I have found. So what do you think? Do those three things resonate with you?
Absolutely, they do. And I thank you for your course. Now, where are you holding the course? How do people find out about that?
Right. I'm still building it. So I have a wait list on my
Okay.
website, guidedbyjamie.com. Sign up there. When it's released, you'll get notified. And I'm super excited about it. I really think it's going to be powerful.
If we're not doing these things, we're not going to create any change. And that's the
Yes.
difference. And one of the things I want to say to you, you're not trying. You are. You have arrived. And I want you to really take that in and hold on to that, because there's no way you're doing this show and clearly you're not showing up with me on this show. If you're trying, you're already there. And one of the things that I want to say about it, also, you wouldn't be teaching, you wouldn't be coaching, right?
Right.
But you now are going to have to step in, like me, to the role model. Do you know that most people don't even know I own the network?
Mm.
And it's because, not that I feel like I don't need to say that. It's because sometimes I get so hung up in getting things done that I forget that my role is to be in the front.
Mm.
That's
Hmm.
always been difficult for me.
Yeah.
That's my next big ticket item. And you cannot do it without a strong belief, spiritual belief, whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
But every day, I start my day with my list.
Mm.
Every day. And sometimes I can't get through it because I start to question myself. It's a very simple list. It's not anything complicated. It starts out with, I am blessed. I am well able. I am successful. I am victorious. I am talented. I am creative. I've got it right over here. I keep it right here. I am wise. I am healthy. I am in shape. I am energetic. I am happy. I am positive. It goes on. And it goes the whole list. I am secure. I'm motivated. I'm generous. See, you have to be able to say those things.
Yes. I am is like what comes after that, you are declaring that. I truly believe. So I'm always very careful in what words follow I am, because you're pretty much declaring that as truth.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you. I also have ageless on my I am list.
I
But yeah,
also have table tennis champion on mine.
I love it. Yes. I yeah, I feel like when we don't focus on the roots, like building those roots and developing those roots, that's when we topple in storms. That's when things hit us hard and we have a hard time getting back up. Things like toxic relationships or careers that drain us or this constant people pleasing. So what do you think happens when women try to try to live confident lives without actually developing those roots?
if you if you go back to what you said originally and don't forget that you're spiritual, wisdom, knowledge. It doesn't matter what you practice. I've studied so many religions. Right now, I'm studying more of the Hindu traditions. But it doesn't matter what you want to believe in. I grew up loving Christ. I've got pictures. So I'm that person. If you came into my room now, you'd be thinking, who is this? But if we're not going to embrace that, and it's the failure, if you don't get that in your 12-step program, it is going to be tough for you. But that is really the core of it. You have to find something.
Yeah, you do. You have to find something.
That's the key for me.
Yeah, same. That has been the game changer, the
Yeah.
lifesaver for
Yeah.
me is connecting to Christ and source and leaning on that when I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. And again, if you're interested in developing unshakable confidence, sign up for my course, Rooted. And you can find the sign up on my website, guidedbyjamie.com. Thank you, Dr. Pat. You're such an inspiration. I appreciate you so much.
And I want you to know this. I believe in you beyond anything you can imagine.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe in you too.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to borrow faith sometimes when you really got to, when yours becomes a little shaky. Thank you, Jamie, for everything.
Thank you for everything. All right. See you next time, everybody. Have a blessed day. You've been listening to Something to Say with me, Jamie Shae, because silence is no longer an option. Catch me live every first and third Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, on transformationtalkradio.com to learn how you too can rip off your proverbial muzzle. Silence was never your destiny. It's time to speak up. Subscribe to my channel to listen first when new episodes drop. Follow me on social media and visit guidedbyjamie.com to join the community that has something to say.